In Foxborough on a 34-match unbeaten run, reigning African champions, semi-finalists last time out, and everyone wanted the same story. The Atlas Lions low block and detonate model against a France side that lives on the opposition half. What we actually got was a masterclass in preemption. France didn't outpress Morocco, they outstructured them. The counter-attack that has knocked out Spain, Portugal, and Netherlands over two tournaments never got a running start because Deschamps built the game plan around one idea: kill the transition before it exists. This is how a 2-0 that looks routine on the scoreline was actually a positional stranglehold, and why the most important moment of the night was a penalty that didn't go in. A nominal mirror of 4-2-3-1 against 4-2-3-1, but the intention behind the numbers could not have been more opposed. France set up with Kone and Rabiot as a genuine double pivot, Olise floating off the right into the 10 pocket, and Dembélé and Doué inverted into their strong feet, and Mbappe pinning the last line. Koundé and Dean were the release valves, fullbacks who alternated between width and half space to keep the rest defense numerically loaded. Morocco's hand was forced before kickoff. Their first primary striker, Saibari, with 3 group stage goals and the shootout winner against the Netherlands, pulled up with a hamstring and was ruled out. So Rahimi led the line as an orthodox 9 rather than as the roaming false 9 Saibari had given to Ohabi. Boadi came in beside El Ayanoui as a deep-lying skrill, and Onahi took the 10. And Brahim Diaz and El Khanos were the transition triggers of the flank. On paper, a like for like. In practice, one side built to sustain pressure and the one built to survive it and spring. France's build ran through a 3-2 base. One of Kone or Rabiot dropped between Saliba and Upamecano. The ball near fullback held width. The far fullback tucked in to make the rest defense a back 3 plus a screen. That gave them a permanent +1 against Morocco's front press, and crucially, a settled shape to counter press into the second the ball turned over. The overloads were deliberately lopsided. France tilted left, funneling Dean, Doué, and drifting Olise into the same corridor to drag Hakimi infield and isolate the space behind him. Every time Morocco's block shifted across, France switched with one pass to the weak side. Koundé stepping into a vacated half space, Dembélé peeling onto his left. The whole first hour was a patience exercise. Bait the shift, punish the vacated zone, and never overcommit bodies so the counter had nowhere to run. Mbappe's role was the tell. He wasn't dropping to combine. He stayed on the last shoulder, occupying both centre backs and Mazraoui's cover instinct. So France could work 3 versus 3 around the box, knowing the pin was always live. That is why the breakthrough when it came was a cutback and not a through ball. Oabi set a mid block that folded into a low one, a compact 4-4-2 out of position with Onahi jumping to press the ball near pivot, and Rahimi carving his run to shield the far pivot from switches. The idea was textbook Morocco: absorb, tempt France into the wide traps, win it, and feed Hakimi and Brahim Diaz into the open grass on the counter. Against almost anyone else, this tournament it has worked. But 2 things broke it. First, France's rest defense never gave the counter a first pass. Every Moroccan regain met an immediate 3-man counter press and a set back line. So Hakimi kept receiving with his back to a wall of blue instead of running into space. Second, losing Saibari stripped the connective tissue between midfield and Rahimi. And without that dropping 9, the block won the ball but had nobody to bounce it off, and the outlet died on the first or second pass. Morocco's map thus became everything routine through Hakimi and nothing arriving in the business end. One first half attempt, but that says it all. 25th minute. France's left side overload finally forced the issue, with Mbappe spinning in behind Mazraoui is a fraction late, and the trip by Mazraoui was clumsy. VAR confirmed the penalty, but it took like maybe 5 minutes to do that. I don't know, that maybe was something that altered on Mbappe's mind. Mbappe went to a stutter run, and that hesitation approach that has bailed him out a dozen times didn't do this time. So Bounou held his line, read the planted foot, and went low to his left to smother the penalty. No rebound scramble, no second phase, a clean, killed penalty. Momentum should swing. It didn't. And that's the whole story of Morocco's night in one sequence. They produced the single biggest moment of resistance in the match, and it brought them nothing, because France's structure meant the pressure resumed on the very next goal kick instead of ceding territory. That Bounou kept it 0-0 till halftime was an immense achievement. But France kept the game exactly where they wanted it. The goal is the game plan rendered in one move. France worked the left overload one more time, with Dean underlapping and Doué occupying Hakimi. Olise arrived late into the half space, and the cutback pulled Bounou to his near post before finding Mbappe attacking the back stick. That was a clinical finish, and it was Mbappe's 20th World Cup goal, moving him to within one of Messi, and it is entirely a product of the patience, 60 minutes of baiting the shift, then punishing the vacated far side the moment the block finally cracked. Note what wasn't there. There was no transition, no chaos, no Morocco counter to answer it, because the rest defense had already neutralized Hakimi as an outlet. France scored the way they had threatened to score all night, and the manner of it, controlled, positional, inevitable, was more demoralizing than any smash and grab. 6 minutes later, the tie was over, and it was over precisely because Morocco had to chase. The moment they pushed the line up to hunt for an equalizer, France's transition game, which was dormant by design all night, switched on. Olise released Mbappe in a very remarkable kind of a pass. Could have easily passed it backwards, but instead he took one touch, and with the second touch he passed it to Mbappe. And the give and go slices through the backline caught the mid-step, and Dembélé swept low across Bounou for his fifth of the tournament. The run that Mbappe made on this goal was as good as the assist that was given to Dembélé. This was the trap inside the game plan. France spent an hour convincing Morocco that the only route back was to commit numbers forward, and the instant they did, the same rest defense that smothered the counter became a launchpad for one. 2 goals in 6 minutes, both flowing from the identical structural principle applied first in a settled phase and then in transition. It was ruthless. The shot count tells the blunt story: 21-4, 8 on target to 1. But the shape of the XG tells the tactical one. Strip out the penalty, and France still built the better part of 2 goals of chance quality from open play against one of the tournament's meanest defenses. While Morocco's expected total barely clears the floor, 61% possession understates the control. Field tilt near 70% is closer to the truth. The PPDA gap is the headline for the tactically minded. France pressing at a rate that let Morocco string almost nothing together. Morocco allowed to hold the ball only in areas where it couldn't hurt anyone. Read that momentum trace again, and you can see that the game plan is breathing alive through that. France was in the ascendancy from the first 10 minutes, with one Moroccan flicker either side of halftime. The Unahi effort, which Marinan parried, and a Hakimi free kick sailing wide, and then after the hour, the line simply pins to the France side and stays there. There's no wild oscillation, no end-to-end spell because the match was never allowed to open up on Morocco's terms. The two goals sits right on top of each other in the trace. The hinge of a game is a 6-minute window and everything before it was the setup. Let's look at the passing maps now. So France's network sits high and tilts left. The Rabiot-Kone axis metronoming everything with the fattest link of the match between them. And the density of the connections into the left half space showing exactly where the overload lived. Morocco's is the mirror image warning, compressed, deep, and choked into Hakimi. Everything rooted to the captain, and from there the lines thin out to nothing. No clean repeated connection into Rahimi. The front three starved because the block that won the ball had no structure to progress it. That in one image is the cost of losing Saibari and the reward for France's rest defense. So France are into the semi-final in Dallas against the winner of Spain and Belgium, and they got there without even looking like they're at half space, second gear, third gear. And they were against a quarterfinal against Morocco, who had taken out the Netherlands and drew against the Brazil. Deschamps didn't win this with talent alone. He won it with a structural bet that Morocco's greatest weapon could be disarmed before it was ever drawn. The counter never came because the counter was never allowed to exist. For Morocco, no shame and one clear lesson. The model that failed European giants met a side that had studied the model and built specifically to nullify it. On a night, their one indispensable connector was missing. They leave with the unbeaten run gone, but the reputation as genuine contenders intact. For France, the ominous part is that they have now shown they can win ugly, win pretty, and win by pure positional suffocation. 3 ways to win and 3 wins from 3 in the knockouts. That's a champion's profile. If you like this analysis, do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. I'll be back again for the other tactics room for the other quarterfinal.